Hi all, it's Catherine Burgess with Burgess Group Compass. We're talking about last week's Boulder County real estate numbers and the national question of, are we in a bubble or are we going into a housing bubble? So last week we had some good news. We went from 99 units of inventory up to 127. That was comparing really favorably with 135 in 2019 and 124 in 2018. Remember, we are ignoring 2020 numbers for a couple months. We'll get back to them in the summer. So from an under contract standpoint, we had 107 properties go under contract, a little bit less than 2019 with 116 and 2018 with 114. But that's actually good for us right now. That gives us a little more inventory to work with. So for a month's supply of inventory, we popped up from right around 1 month supply of inventory to 1.59 months supply of inventory last week. And that is in comparison with 2018 at 1.95 and 2019 at 2.55. So doing better, we'll take it. From a price band perspective, how all that translates is we saw a lot of activity in the $1 million to $1.5 million price range that had a 188% sell-through rate. And then the other ends of the price bands were pretty quiet generally. So again, that's not a bad thing right now. That means that we are accumulating a little bit more inventory, which we dearly need. So then thinking about the national question, are we in or are we going into a housing bubble? There are a big number of people who, as they're paying, accelerating prices just to get a property, they're feeling concerned about this question. And essentially, economists right now are telling us that there are a number of reasons why we are not in a bubble, and currently. And so the first one is that credit is much higher than we've seen in the last 20 years. So credit is really good. Then from a supply standpoint, there are reasons why we have the supply situation that we have. So yes, there are more buyers circulating in the market. People have not put their houses on the market who were planning to put their houses on the market because of COVID, and then some people. And then third, builders nationally, as we hit the 2007, 2008 point, they had an enormous supply that had been created. And when the market dropped, builders were left holding the bag. So they have not embraced the quantity of building that they were doing in the past to meet demand. So they are under supplying on purpose. So those three things together really create this lower than normal supply situation. Then thirdly, our equity is so high in nationally. We have more equity in our homes than we've seen since the 1950s. So all those people who had problems in the last recession, it's highly unlikely that we're going to see something like that again, because people have enough equity in their homes so that even if they're in trouble, usually they can sell their homes without a short sale, without a foreclosure. So lots of good equity is keeping the housing market safe. Then finally, and this may be the most important point, our national rate of housing appreciation is much lower than what other countries are seeing. So for example, we've had 118% appreciation in the last 20 years. And where Britain has had 166% real estate price appreciation in the last 20 years, Canada has had 253% price appreciation in the last 20 years. So there are a lot of people who are arguing that, yes, we are having a price acceleration. However, it is a correction. It is not any sort of speculative situation. It is actually the US housing market getting in alignment with what has happened in much of the developed world. So, could we go into a housing bubble? Absolutely. Things change and Americans love excess. However, are we in one right now? The people who really understand the market would say no. So all of this brings us back to the question of supply. And so sellers, again, supply is needed. And so if you've been thinking about coming to market, now is the time. Call us with questions. We're happy to help you brainstorm on how to make that transition between your next buy and your sale really smooth. And we will be happy to be a resource. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks.